In our video today, we will explore the various methods and practices throughout history that were used to fake or restore virginity. From medieval chastity belts to ancient potions and modern medical procedures, we will examine the cruel and unsettling methods women have resorted to in order to conform to social norms and expectations. Virginity was more than just a state. It was a matter of survival in a society where it held significant value. Virginity had historical and cultural significance, from its association with power and purity to its role in religious and social rituals. Dawn of Purity: Unveiling Virginity in Antiquity. In antiquity, there were various methods and practices used to feign or restore virginity. There was the medieval practice of using chastity belts, metal devices with locks that were popularized by the crusaders to enforce fidelity. Moving forward, during the Georgian era in England, high society ladies used lemons and sponges soaked in vinegar as archaic methods of re-virginization. In 19th century China, brides used mysterious artificial membranes to create the illusion of virginity. These peculiar, unsettling, and often cruel methods were used to forge the idealized state of innocence. All this effort by women was because virginity was more than just a state. It was a matter of survival in a society where it held great value. Veils of Impurity: Investigating ancient virginity rituals. In Babylon, the importance of virginity was emphasized in the annual sacred marriage ceremony, where the high priestess represented the goddess Inanna, and her virginity symbolized social norms and divine sanctity. As it moved into medieval Europe, virginity was highly valued and subjected to rigorous tests, such as the cloth test, in which a bride's blood-stained clothing was publicly examined as proof of her virginity. In Japan, during the Heian period, aristocratic women blackened their teeth as a symbolic transition from maidenhood to womanhood. Yoruba African weddings involved handing a white cloth to the bride, which the groom would inspect for traces of blood the next morning, celebrating the bride's purity. In Mayan culture, the absence of bloodstains on the bride's sheet after her first night of union was considered a dishonor to the family. Christianity contemplates and values the concept of virginity, with biblical perspectives on chastity becoming evident, with figures like the Virgin Mary elevating the sanctity of virginity in Christian societies. Echoes of Chastity: The biblical perspective on virginity. Virginity has had mythical value throughout history. In antiquity, it was expected that virgin women would become wives and mothers, and the New Testament preached the virtue of virginity. As the Middle Ages approached, virginity became an asset in the political and power dynamics of feudal society. A bride's virginity played a central role in negotiations for strategic marriages to consolidate power and acquire territory. The cult of the virgin saints also thrived during this time, emphasizing the association between virginity and spiritual virtue. In literature, the concept of courtly love idealized the pursuit of a noble and unattainable virgin lady. In ancient Rome, the practice of feigning virginity was common, with the use of aloe vera and the popularity of St. Hildegard's dew during the medieval period. Revealed illusions: The invisible art of feigning purity. Through the ages, one of the most frequently employed methods in antiquity to feign virginity was the use of a potion made from fennel, arugula, and pennyroyal, believed to contract the female reproductive system. Another strategy involved the use of blood, where it was said that women in 18th century France used chicken blood to create the illusion of virginity. This practice was not limited to the West, as variations of this method were also reported in Asian cultures. Clandestine artifacts also played a role in this deception, with the use of artificial magnets in various Middle Eastern and Asian cultures. These magnets, often made with delicate membranes, were used to simulate bleeding, which was erroneously associated with a woman's first sexual experience. More recent medical procedures like hymenoplasty gained popularity in the late 20th century. However, it is important to note the ethical and medical controversies surrounding such procedures. The widespread practice of simulating virginity reflects the immense pressure and scrutiny women have faced throughout history regarding their perceived purity. A symbol that continues to endure is Joan of Arc, whose virginity became a symbol of divine approval and moral superiority. Her intact virginity was seen as a seal of divine approval, granting her authority and helping her gather troops and allies. This perception also played a significant role during her trial, where her choice of male clothing was seen as a way to preserve her chastity. Despite her courage and conviction, Joan of Arc was ultimately declared a heretic and faced a tragic fate. Joan of Arc and Queen Elizabeth Brave and the power and divinity of virginity. Virginity has symbolized power and purity throughout history. Two notable examples are Joan of Arc and Queen Elizabeth I. Joan of Arc's virginity played a significant role in her canonization as a martyr, solidifying her status as an icon of moral virtue. Elizabeth of England, also known as the Virgin Queen, was Queen of England and Ireland from 1558 to 1603. Daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, during her reign, she was much more moderate than her father. As she grew older, Elizabeth I became known for her virginity and died without offspring. Although she is known as the Virgin Queen, historians believe she had a very active sex life. According to historical records, she suffered from vaginal agenesis, a common condition characterized by the lack of development of the vagina and uterus, a congenital condition that prevents penetrative sexual intercourse. The exact causes of vaginal agenesis are not entirely clear. Experts believe that in the first 20 weeks of gestation, the Mullerian ducts do not form properly. The lock and key of purity, chastity belts and illusions of virginity in Renaissance Europe. While the existence of chastity belts is primarily a myth, the Renaissance period witnessed attempts to fake virginity due to the social and economic value placed on women's purity. Some methods included using rooster blood to make it appear as though the hymen had been broken and using concoctions to strengthen the female reproductive system. These practices highlight the distorted power dynamics of the time, where women were subjected to social expectations and often resorted to desperate measures to maintain their perceived purity. The section also addresses the colonial imposition of new cultural norms, particularly regarding virginity, on colonized societies. Colonialism had a significant impact on perceptions of virginity, as European colonizers deemed indigenous cultures with different views on virginity and courtship as uncivilized. Imposing purity, the colonial shadow over virginity. The legacy of colonialism in defining and restricting the concept of virginity continues to influence social norms even after the withdrawal of colonizers. The Victorian era, marked by strict moral codes and the elevation of purity and virginity, stands out as a period obsessed with female virtue. The obsession with virginity is portrayed through literature, such as the symbolism of the Lamb of God, and infiltrates the field of science with dubious theories. However, there were voices of dissent, such as the purity movement led by women like Josephine Butler, who challenged Victorian norms. Florence Nightingale, a pioneer of modern nursing, also rejected conventional marriage to pursue her career. Despite these challenges, the shadow of Victorian morality persisted well into the 20th century, and the complex narrative of virginity continues to unravel in the realms of science and social norms. Unraveling the tangle. Scientific realities and myths of virginity. Historically, the hymen has been the indicator of virginity. This belief, originating with the ancient Greeks, led to the widespread practice of virginity tests in various cultures. However, scientific studies have shown that the appearance and condition of the hymen cannot reliably determine a woman's virginity. Even the famous French surgeon Ambroise Paré wrote about conducting virginity tests in the 16th century, highlighting the insidious influence of this myth on social beliefs. The myth persisted into the 21st century when the World Health Organization had to issue guidelines opposing virginity tests. The video also explores the dichotomy of the virgin and the fallen woman during times of conflict, particularly during the World Wars, where women were portrayed as symbols of purity and patriotism or as unfortunate victims affected by the harsh realities of war. In the trenches of dichotomy, the Virgin and the Nightingale, in times of conflict. The existence of the comfort women's system, revealed by Kim Hudson in 1991, shed light on the horrendous treatment of women during wartime. In France, women believed to have been associated with German soldiers during the occupation were publicly humiliated. These social reactions underscored the dichotomy between the treatment of these women and the praise given to those who adhered to traditional purity norms. Simone de Beauvoir's book emphasizes the social reinforcement of these norms and the devaluation or valorization of women based on their perceived conformity. Throughout history, the pressure to feign virginity has persisted, evolving in technique but rooted in a systemic culture that values women for their perceived purity. It is time to break free from these expectations and embrace individuality and freedom, as powerfully suggested by Gloria Steinem. Ultimately, this exploration serves as a guide toward a future of respect, understanding, and equality